Hi everyone, this is Angie Wong and I'm president of Legacy Pack. I just want to thank all of our followers. We're close to 100,000 followers on Facebook and we've only been around for a few short months. So thank you again. I'm going to ask you for your continued support leading up to 2024. Please donate to legacy-pac.org. That's legacy-pac.org. Thank you, and we'll see you on the campaign trail.
I'm Jared Craig with the Vet Voice, and on behalf of Legacy PAC and Veterans for America First, I have the pleasure of speaking with Joe Earley, who is the newest candidate for West Virginia's 2nd Congressional District and U.S. Army veteran, a 20-year veteran who currently works in the cybersecurity world. So welcome to the show, Joe, and tell the voters a little bit about yourself.
Well, Jared, thanks for having me today. It's cold, blustery, and snowing up here in West Virginia today. Hopefully it's a little warmer down south. But a little bit about me. You stated a little bit. I'm a 20-year veteran, but I want to kind of back up just a little bit. I'm also a native West Virginian. I am born, raised West Virginia. I left the state to serve my country, and the dates from 1982 to 2002. My field of expertise in the military was armored cavalry, an old M1A1 tanker. And I went all the way up through the rank of first sergeant. I've seen a lot of different duty assignments, from border duty on the East-West German border and during the Reagan years, and the strong military that we had during that time frame. Also a couple tours on the in Korea, one up on the DMZ in the 2nd Infantry Division. And then a little tour in Kuwait, just not during one of the combat operations, but it was a rapid deployment proof of concept saber rattling type exercise when Saddam Hussein was still with us. So that's a little bit of the military background and upbringing here in West Virginia. I grew up in the coal fields of West Virginia. I come kind of from humble, hard, scrappy type beginnings. I'm a self-made man. I went in the military as my option versus had the option to go into coal mines. It didn't work out, so I went in the military instead. So with that being said, 20 years veteran, I got my education. I felt a need to, and the Army really kind of pushed that on us during my generation in the Army, as get your education. And I went through the rank of non-commissioned officer. Like I said, a retired first sergeant. I do have an undergraduate degree with the University of Louisville, and I have a graduate degree with Marshall University out of Huntington, West Virginia. My degree with Marshall is in technology management with an emphasis on information security. Currently work in the cybersecurity field. I am a federal contractor, and I serve the federal workforce and have since I retired from the military. Not just in cybersecurity, but in biometric uses for identification for friend and foe, as well as weapons of mass destruction training and for civilian and military first responders. So I've used the experience that I have, that I received in the military, all the leadership training, schools, execution, implementation that was required in my combat arms field, because we had to make sure that we were lethal on the battlefield to preserve American values if called upon.
When America had values, and lethality was a factor that should have been the deciding factor for a lot of decision making.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Now I'll digress just a minute off topic. I just read a report here today. I subscribe to the National Defense Industry Association magazine, and there happened to be an article in here about the annual poll that really shows a low confidence in the military. And I bet you probably could think of the top two questions, the highest percentage. One is military leadership. There is no trust in the military leadership anymore. They're too politicized. and I hate to use this word, but it's the common phrase that everybody knows. They've went woke. They do critical race theory in the military. They do equity in the military. Instead of the old mantra that I grew up with, be all you can be as an individual and be a member of a team, regardless of race, creed, color, religion, sexual orientation, whatever, be part of a team, because America first was the concept. America first was the goal, and to protect that. The second part of this is low confidence in the President of the United States. So as the commander in chief. So yeah, so that's near and dear to my heart as a retired military member, to watch our military be denigrated and degraded to where they don't even have a combat multiplier of love of country and be able to work together as a team. It's all now about division based on skin color, division based on geography. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's absurdity. Looking back at the history of the armed forces, we have been an integrated armed forces since the Revolutionary War, and
Absolutely.
all of this wokeness. And granted, there were some segregation. I'm not going to discount that efforts in the early 1900s. It really didn't exist. The veterans would come home from war and experienced discrimination, racial discrimination,
Yeah.
or bigotry. But generally in the armed forces, it was a team effort. So you mentioned the America First used to be the agenda of the entire country. And it's strange that we have polarized the conservative movement to the America First, while we have this tension from the left of, I guess we'll call it America Last or America No More. So specifically the voters in West Virginia, I want to say we're proud as Veterans for America First to endorse you, Joe Earley, for West Virginia's 2nd Congressional District, and Veterans for Trump National to endorse you for the same. So knowing the West Virginia citizenry and understanding from growing up there and being, a lifelong resident, you mentioned the coal fields, and you said that was an option other than the military. Is that even an option for West Virginians anymore?
Well,
are they digging for coal or mining for coal?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I'll start from saying this, that the United States energy industry is dependent upon coal, oil, and gas, fossil fuels. Without that, we would not have a thriving nation.
Wow.
I mean, and West Virginia is the bastion of that fossil fuel industry in this country. And it is a beautiful sight to drive along Route 20 over towards Wetzel County, up into Brook, along the Ohio River Basin, and see full coal cars running to the power plants. Now, granted, we all know that by burning, they produce pollution. But we have enough technology in place for scrubbers and to eliminate a large majority of that. The other side of that coin is digging for rare earth minerals completely rapes the planet. It really does. They talk about strip mines and how it defaces the natural beauty. Well, I'll tell you what defaces the natural beauty here in West Virginia is that's driving east over in towards the Martinsburg area through Snowshoe, Canaan Valley, and seeing windmills across the horizon that takes away from the natural beauty of this state.
They're not efficient. They don't produce the amount of energy it's needed to build one of those and maintain it. And what's strange enough about windmills is they require fossil fuels for their grease, their lubrications, and whatnot to even operate.
Yeah.
So Joe, what is if you could nail it down to one to three indicating factors or motivating factors that led you to run for office, what were those?
Well, first off, I love my country. I have served my country my entire adult life. I have worked. I have a strong work ethic. I've worked since I was 14 years old actually making money from retail and things of that manner, but work before that. I come from a very disciplined background when it comes down to production of things that are needed for our country: steel, coal, aluminums. My grandfather worked at Alloy up off the Kanawha River in Fayette County. My father was an electrician at Kaiser Aluminum in Ravenswood, which is not Kaiser anymore. That's why I kind of stumbled on the name. And I come from that background of industry, and it taught me a strong work ethic, love of country. So as I got out of the military, I didn't think that I would have to worry about watching my country being taken over by internal forces. We always focused on the external threats. When you look at things from a risk management perspective, the risk is always outside, but now the risk, we have an internal threat, and the risk assessment needs to look at that a lot. I mean, anything from what this current White House claims to be as an idea, which is, and the Antifa is an idea. Antifa is a dark web organized entity that is destroying our country.
Or domestic terrorists.
Yes,
I'll just rip the Band-Aid off.
They are domestic terrorists. And I never thought that I would see this occurring in my lifetime. I don't want to sound cliche, but I'm a break glass kind of guy. And duty calls again, in my opinion. Duty calls. I mean, I do not have to do this as an individual. I want to do it to continue to serve my country. I want to do it because I know that I understand the heart and soul of my brothers and sisters here in West Virginia. I understand what's going on across our nation. I am not from a political family. I am not a seasoned politician. I'm a warrior. I'm a fighter. And it's time now across the conservatives that are in this country that are running for office to place themselves on the proverbial battlefield and go head to head and meet this internal threat head on, so that we can defeat the progressives and defeat the communist insurgency that's happening in our country. And people can say it's not happening. It is happening. And it's getting stronger. The Democrats today, they don't care to say what they're doing. They used to hide it. They used to subdue or be very quiet about it, quietly move through and navigate the process. Now they're just blatantly, look, what are you going to do about it? We're doing this. We don't care what you do. We don't care how you react. We don't care how it impacts this country. They would rather watch and burn our country down and burn our society down. And sometimes you have to be careful what you ask for. When they burn it down, it may start fresher than what it was, and it may be without them.
I agree. I think that I've called them a eroding force. That the conservative mindset is that we have principles, which naturally leads to infighting. And then from the outside in, you get a lot of critiques from the left because they see our infighting, which is really the enforcement of norms and principles and things we agree upon.
Yes.
And their perspective is not any principled background. You can't weave a thread through their policies, their agenda. They are an erosive force.
Yes.
And you're right. We've lost that shock value of the worst possible outcome. It's being sold as the shiny new thing. So I want to thank you for stepping up. I think that our country in the 2022 cycle, coming into the 2024 cycle, we are seeing so many candidates that are not professional politicians, that are jumping off the sidelines and feel the call to duty. And that leads me to my next question, Joe. Once you get in, and of course, this is a veterans group, Veterans for America First, and Veterans for Trump, what platform issues are the most important for you and your campaign that would touch on the interests of veterans, veterans' families, or the military in general, active duty veterans, and first responders?
Well, that's a very core question, and it's a priority of mine, is to ensure that our veterans, our war fighters, those who, not just the war fighters that wear the U.S. military uniform, but those first responders, those law enforcement personnel, firefighters, emergency response, they are also frontline troops. And I think it's very important that we take care of them, not just from a standpoint of when they are done on their career side and moving on, but we also, and that's from a health perspective, because as a member of the military, I remember deploying to Kuwait, rapid deployment out of Fort Stewart, Georgia. We got notified on a Friday. We're in Kuwait on Saturday afternoon. So it was basically a 24-hour flight duration processing. And you get loaded up with these shots, and you're sitting on an airplane, and it's hard to sit down because you're loaded up with shots. But you're exposed to so many elements in hostile situations that can impact your health long term. You may not realize it up front, but you may realize it 15 years later. I mean, look at the responders from 9/11. A large majority of them have succumbed to cancers from all the toxicity and within the waste during the recovery operations of World Trade Centers and surrounding areas. So taking care of veterans and first responders would be a priority of mine. And I understand there are existing programs up there. What we have to do is always go back and look at those programs as the technology and times change. We need to go back and look at those and make sure those policies are still effective, that the laws that are on the books, the legislation that's pursuing through the halls of Congress meets the needs of those veterans and first responders. Now that takes care of that part. I will say that I think the main priority that I'm looking at right now, I have three. One of them is targeting the environmental social governance avenues that are they're basically permeating throughout our society now, because what the government through the constrained by the Constitution, they now use corporations to be basically the arm twisters. I'll call them henchmen. The corporations are now the henchmen for the U.S. government under the Biden administration and the Democratic Congress that we had, and sometimes even rhinos, that they are the henchmen to enforce violations of our First Amendment rights. I just saw something earlier that the Biden administration, Biden specifically, is trying to find another backdoor to gun control to infringe on the Second Amendment rights of our good citizens of this country.
Law-abiding citizens.
Law-abiding citizens, absolutely. We all know the old cliche, that, take away the guns, only the criminals will have guns. That's a little bit more than cliche, because that's fact. Because criminals do not obey the law anyway. That's why they're criminals.
Right.
That's
exactly.
why they're criminals. So targeting the environmental social governance is all part of this, because that effort, under the term that they like to use, inclusive capitalism, they are pushing this ESG throughout all segments of society, and it's not only having impact on how we think about the world, but and specifically when I say the world, I'm talking about our United States world, our portion of it, our culture, our norms. They're attacking it, and they are denigrating our Constitution. They are purposefully dissecting our culture and our cultural norms, and trying to reestablish some vision that's hard to put a finger on. It's just literally, it's about control.
I think they're trying to burn our society at both ends. You defame and discount the wisdom of the elderly, the generational wisdom that we have had for decades, hundreds of years, all while trying to take control over the messaging to children. So at the same time, they're corrupting our children with easy, instant gratification policies and principles, and denigrating the wisdom of our I say that our national wealth is our generational wisdom. And what's in the middle? A bunch of confused people who are holding on to principles and those that are running away from them.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the last part, you know, as priorities is I want to focus in, and it really, I'm going to say it all revolves around two major phrases, you know, the inclusive capitalism and the open society of Bill Gates, because there's some connected dots that go along with this, and I think it really needs to come to light with the American citizenry. They need to understand that this whole movement is trying to move us from a cashless society to a digital currency. And they don't understand that means that you will be restricted on what you can buy based on a social credit score. It all links together. So if your carbon footprint is violating the environment portion of the ESG movement, then you may not be able to drive. I mean, they're saying right now that if I was to purchase an EV today, that to become, I think the term that is used is a net or a carbon tax. The carbon tax that I have to pay is I have to drive that car for 8 years up to only about 90,000 miles. Well, that's going to limit me on my travels, because right now I'm free to go turn the ignition over on my gasoline powered vehicle at a very cheap price. Well, cheap comparatively speaking. Our gas prices are through the roof right now, but I can go out here and I have the freedom to drive to any state in the United States as I choose.
It's a fundamental right.
It is a fundamental right. And that goes along with other things, but you know, I think some of the initiatives that are going through Congress now is just like the Second Amendment constitutional carry should be a standard national right. If I am a legal gun owner and I am a good citizen, I meet all the criteria, I should be able to travel from any state in the union, just like a driver's license. If I have
Agreed.
So, but I didn't want to divert too much, but I want to get on this. I want to move on. I want to move on this digital currency. I want to move on this open society. Do you know that Bill Gates just came to West Virginia, and I can't believe our Republican-led Senate, our entire legislature, delegates and Senate, with a Republican governor, just brought Bill Gates into West Virginia in the under the guise of Form Energy, okay, and they're doing a battery plant in Weirton, West Virginia. That is a Trojan horse. That's coal country, from Weirton all the way down to Pleasants and Tyler County, along that whole Ohio River Basin from the northern Panhandle. They have attacked West Virginia with that, but they brought it in under the guise of, oh, let's go produce jobs. Yeah, let's go produce jobs, but how many jobs are we going to lose? What's the ratio? What's the deprecated ratio at this point in time? You know, so it's so that's looking at, and with that Form Energy comes the inclusive capitalism that's driven by the globalist. And they're bringing that into the core of West Virginia, which is typically, and I may be a little bit biased when I say this, is West Virginia is a bastion of liberty and freedom for the country. We mountaineers are always free, and we will always remain free. So I think for them to bring that in here, they just brought in a Trojan horse unknowingly.
Well, when your freedom is subject to the existence of electricity, those in charge of that electricity can turn your freedom on and off, which I believe goes right back to the core notion of tyranny, arbitrary control over your liberty. And it's a pleasure to hear you speak out about that. I'm a big fan of using domestic fossil fuels. If we're going to transition over to something else, like any other business model, you find viability prior to transitioning. You find the technology necessary to actually meet the demand that's already present. And that the viability, just going back to that, has been ignored. That Joe Biden on day one promised to shut down coal. He promised all of these things that are pandering to the emotional left. And whatever else is between that man's ears has not been well thought through or founded And starting to wonder who his puppet master is, because I don't think he has America's best interest at stake. So, Joe, I want to support you going forward with your run for West Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. We will support you. We will give you a platform at any time you wanted to get back on and share with us what you've got going. I'm going to put down here underneath the screen here the websites that you have or any social media plugs that you want. So please feel free to reach out to me. It's always a pleasure. We're happy to endorse you, and God bless.
Okay. Thank you very much.